My friend texted me at 11 p.m. Your fiancé is kissing another man at Olive Garden. The next morning, she woke up to canceled vows, frozen accounts. I had 48 missed calls from her. I was sitting on the couch, surrounded by a mess of wedding receipts, when my phone buzzed at exactly 11:02 p.m. I almost ignored it. I'd spent the last week finalizing catering contracts and trying to fix an overcharge from the florist. The message came from Leo, my best friend and best man. It read, "You need to get down to Olive Garden. Right now. Claire's here. She's not alone." At first, I thought he was joking. Claire had said she was at her bachelorette dinner with a few coworkers, mostly women from her marketing office. I even texted her earlier that night to ask how it was going, and she'd sent a selfie from a dimly lit booth, holding a glass of white wine, surrounded by plates of breadsticks. Everything looked normal. But then Leo sent another message, a photo this time. It was Claire. Same hair, same silver bracelet I'd given her last Christmas. She was sitting at a different booth now. Across from her was Vincent, the senior manager at her firm. His hand was on hers across the table. They weren't leaning in like colleagues. They were close. Too close. My chest tightened. Leo followed up with another line. I didn't want to believe it either, man. But she just kissed him. I didn't even think. I grabbed my keys, left the apartment, and drove through the quiet streets. My pulse was beating in my ears. The car felt smaller by the minute. When I reached Olive Garden, the lot was nearly empty. Inside, the yellow lighting gave everything a hazy warmth that felt insulting, like the world didn't know it should feel colder. I told the hostess I was meeting someone and walked straight toward the back booths. And there she was. Claire. My fiancée. My future wife, in 2 days. She was laughing. That light, fake laugh she used whenever she wanted to seem charming. Vincent leaned in and whispered something that made her glance down, smiling. When she looked up again, her face changed. Her smile froze midair. Because she saw me. I didn't storm over. I didn't shout. I walked calmly to their table, pulled the empty chair back, and sat down. She whispered my name like she couldn't believe it, like I'd appeared out of thin air. Vincent froze, his eyes darting between us. For a long moment, I just sat there. The waitress came by and asked if I wanted anything to drink. I said a glass of the same wine Claire was having. She looked like she might faint. I asked Vincent how work had been. He mumbled something about quarterly reports. Then I looked at Claire, at the faint lipstick stain on her glass, at the way her hands trembled when she tried to pick up her fork. She finally whispered that she could explain. I told her there was no need. Then I reached into my pocket, pulled out the ring box, and placed it on the table. I didn't open it. I didn't say anything else. I just stood up and left. The restaurant went silent behind me. I could feel their eyes following me through the glass doors. In the parking lot, I stopped beside my car. My hands were steady. Too steady. Then I heard the door slam open behind me, her voice calling after me. But before she reached me, another car pulled up. Leo stepped out and intercepted her. I didn't hear what he said, but whatever it was made her stop cold. Her face turned pale, her mouth half open. She didn't chase me again. Back home, I sat in the dark for a long time. The TV flickered quietly, but I couldn't even tell what was on. My phone buzzed over and over. First texts, then calls. I turned it face down. When I finally looked, there were 17 missed calls, all from her. The last one had a voicemail. I listened. It was her, crying, half drunk, saying she'd explain everything in the morning. She said I was overreacting. She said Vincent was helping her with something important. She said, "Please don't ruin this before the wedding." Before the wedding. That phrase hit like a nail to the chest. Because it didn't sound like she cared about me. It sounded like she cared about the wedding. I opened my laptop and logged into our joint account. A week ago, we had nearly $35,000 saved, a mix of my salary and her smaller contributions from work. Now, there was a transfer listed from that afternoon. $7,500 sent to her personal checking account, labeled as emergency. I checked her credit history. She'd opened a new card 3 days ago under her maiden name. That card was already maxed out. Hotel charges, restaurant bills, jewelry store payments. I sat there, scrolling, heart silent. The betrayal wasn't just romantic. It was financial, calculated. She had been preparing for something long before tonight. My phone buzzed again, this time from Leo. She's not just cheating, man. There's more. I need to tell you in person. I told him to come over. When he arrived, his face was pale, like he'd been keeping something inside for too long. He admitted he hadn't seen her by accident. He'd followed her. Weeks ago, he'd been at a mutual friend's barbecue where he'd seen her texting Vincent. He'd glimpsed one message before she locked the screen. The wedding will solve everything. He hadn't told me then because he thought it was work-related. But after tonight, he knew. I didn't shout at him either. I just sat there, quiet, trying to make sense of it all. The next morning, Claire came home early, pretending nothing happened. She was wearing sunglasses though it was cloudy. She smiled like she was walking into a scene she'd rehearsed. She said the bachelorette dinner got out of hand and that she'd had too much wine. She asked if I was mad. I told her I saw her. I told her I sat at the table. Her smile cracked. She froze for a few seconds, like a computer trying to reload a corrupted file. Then she started talking fast, saying Vincent was a friend, that he was going through a divorce, that he needed someone to talk to. She said I was being paranoid. When I didn't respond, she started crying, asking if I'd still marry her. I just walked past her into the bedroom. The ring box was still in my jacket pocket. I set it down on the dresser. Then I told her to pack a bag. She asked why. I said we needed space before the wedding. She hesitated, then agreed too easily. Said she'd stay with her parents. But an hour later, after she left, I checked my phone's account alerts again. A hotel charge near the airport under her name. She hadn't gone to her parents. I remember sitting there on the edge of the bed, staring at the empty closet space where her things had been. The wedding was 2 days away, and I already knew it wouldn't happen. I called Leo and told him what I found. His answer was simple. Then we finish it before she does. That was the moment something inside me shifted. I wasn't angry anymore. I was awake, calm, precise, detached. Whatever was coming, it wouldn't be quiet. And that night, I decided exactly how I'd end the wedding. Not with words, not with tears, but with evidence. The next morning, I woke up to silence. The apartment felt wrong, the kind of quiet that has weight to it. The coffee machine sputtered once and stopped halfway through. Even that small sound made me flinch. Claire had left a note on the kitchen counter. Need time to think. Staying with Mom. Please don't do anything rash. We'll fix this. The handwriting was rushed, the kind she used when she was lying. I sat down with my coffee and opened my laptop again. Overnight, 2 more withdrawals had been made from our shared account, smaller this time, around $300 each. One was labeled Uber, the other Hilton. The Hilton was what caught my attention. There wasn't a Hilton near her mother's neighborhood. There was one by the airport, though, close to the freeway. I checked the timestamp. 1:47 a.m. It hit me like cold water. She hadn't gone home after leaving. She'd gone straight to a hotel, after being caught. I called Leo and told him everything. He didn't hesitate. Pack your keys. I'm driving. By the time we reached the Hilton, the sun was climbing over the parking lot. We parked near the back entrance. Leo went inside first, pretending to check in. He came back 10 minutes later with the room number, 214. He'd managed to get it from the front desk clerk by flashing an old badge from his security job and saying he needed to verify a welfare concern. Room 214 was on the 2nd floor. We took the stairs to avoid attention. I stopped outside the door and listened. For a while, there was nothing. Then muffled voices. A man's, low and angry. A woman's, softer, pleading. Leo whispered, "That's him." Through the gap under the door, I could see faint shadows moving. Then the unmistakable sound of something hitting the wall, not violent, more like frustration. I couldn't hear everything, but I caught fragments. Vincent was saying something about money and the deal. Claire kept saying she'd handle it before the weekend. I stepped back. I didn't want to barge in. Not yet. After a few minutes, the door opened and Vincent walked out. He was dressed in a suit, adjusting his tie like nothing happened. He passed right by us without looking up. I saw the same cologne Claire once said smelled like leadership. When he disappeared down the hall, I knocked on the door. Claire opened it half a second later. Her eyes widened. Her hair was a mess, makeup smudged. She froze like a deer caught in headlights. For a second, we just looked at each other. Then she stepped aside and let me in. The room was small, expensive, perfectly sterile. There were 2 glasses on the nightstand, one half full. Her phone sat charging by the bed. I saw my reflection in the TV screen, jaw tight, shoulders stiff. She started talking before I said a word. "It's not what you think." I told her to sit down. I wasn't shouting. My voice was low, too low. She hesitated, then sat. I asked if she was cheating on me. She shook her head too quickly. Said she'd met Vincent to clear things up before the wedding. I asked what needed clearing. She said it was personal. Then, slowly, she began to crumble. Her sentences fell apart. She admitted she owed Vincent money, that he'd lent her some months ago when she was going through something. I asked what kind of something. She said, "My family." Apparently, her mother had taken out a private loan to fund the wedding deposits before my paycheck transfers came through. But instead of using it for the venue, her mother had invested part of it in her brother's failing business. When the repayments started piling up, Claire panicked. She went to Vincent, who offered to help her quietly if she promised to pay him back after the wedding. That alone might have been believable, but then she said something that made my stomach twist. She whispered, "He has pictures, Owen, from before you and I were together, from when I worked under him. He said if I didn't keep in touch, he'd send them to my family. He's been threatening me." I stared at her, trying to process. She was shaking. I wanted to believe her, but something didn't add up. She said he'd blackmailed her for months, yet somehow she'd found time to meet him for dinners, accept money, and keep it all secret. I asked how much she owed. She said $20,000. I asked if that's why she transferred the $7,500 yesterday. She nodded, said she had to make a payment. Leo was still outside the room. I texted him a quick message, "Stay. Don't come in yet." I looked at Claire and asked if she still loved Vincent. Her face went blank. She said, "No, I never did. But he helped me once, and I can't undo that." Something in her tone changed then, not guilt, not fear. Something colder. She wasn't confessing because she wanted forgiveness. She was confessing because she needed me to stay in the game. She was trying to control how I saw the story before I could destroy it. I stood up, walked to the window, and looked down at the parking lot. Vincent's car was gone. She asked if I'd tell anyone. I told her not yet. She reached out, touching my arm lightly, and whispered, "Please, just let me fix this before the wedding." Her words were poison. I told her I'd give her one day. Then I left. Outside, Leo was waiting by the elevator. I told him everything. He listened quietly, jaw clenched. When I finished, he said, "She's lying. You know that, right? She's still protecting him." I didn't answer. Back in the car, I scrolled through the hotel's Wi-Fi landing page, checked the access logs for room 214 using the reservation code from her Hilton receipt. 2 devices had logged in, hers and another under Vincent's name. Both had been active since the night before. That night, I sat in my apartment again, surrounded by what was left of my future. The venue, the decorations, the honeymoon bookings, all set, all paid for. I spent the next few hours canceling everything piece by piece. The catering deposit, the photographer, the limo. Every refund went back into a new account under my name only. Then I opened a spreadsheet and began tracking everything she'd touched in the past 6 months. Every payment, every shared bill, every accidental purchase. The pattern was clear. Each time I paid for something large, a ring, a deposit, a flight, she withdrew small amounts afterward, as if siphoning from the background. It wasn't about Vincent anymore. It was about planning a life where I was the backup funder. Near midnight, Leo texted me again. "Vincent's still married, right?" I confirmed it. Then he sent another message. "You might want to talk to his wife." He'd found her Facebook profile, Marissa, a nurse, 6 months pregnant. Her last public post was from a baby shower 2 weeks ago. In the photos, Vincent was smiling, holding a cake knife. Leo said he could reach out anonymously. I told him not to yet. I wanted to see how far Claire would go first. At 2 a.m., another transfer alert buzzed on my phone. She'd moved another $1,000. The description said, "Final payment." The next morning, she texted, "Can we meet at Olive Garden? I want to explain everything face to face." The irony wasn't lost on me. 2 nights after she was caught cheating in that same restaurant, she wanted to meet there again. It felt like a circle closing or a noose tightening. I replied that I'd meet her. I didn't tell her I'd already invited someone else to dinner too. That night, everything was going to shift again, and this time, I wouldn't be the one caught off guard. By the time I pulled into the Olive Garden parking lot, it was almost sunset. The same neon glow from 2 nights ago flickered on the signboard, and for a second, the scene felt like a twisted déjà vu. But this time, I wasn't walking in blind. I'd already set everything in motion hours earlier. Leo had helped me send an anonymous email to Marissa, Vincent's wife. Inside it were screenshots of Claire's transfers, a photo of them at the restaurant from that night, and a polite note. "You deserve to know what your husband does when you're not around." Marissa's response had been immediate. She didn't cry or argue. She asked one question, "Where and when?" I told her 7:30 p.m., Olive Garden, same booth near the back wall. Claire texted me that she'd already gotten a table. "Just us," she wrote. I didn't reply. When I stepped inside, she looked up like nothing had happened. Her hair was curled, her dress elegant, her face composed, as if the last 2 days hadn't ripped a hole through both of us. She'd even ordered my favorite wine, probably thinking I'd appreciate the gesture. She smiled faintly and said she wanted to explain everything properly. I sat across from her and listened. She said she'd ended things with Vincent. She said she had deleted his number, blocked him on social media, and returned the borrowed money. She claimed it had all been a misunderstanding, that the so-called blackmail was really just emotional manipulation. She wanted us to move forward, to focus on love, not mistakes. Her words slid across the table like oil. Then she took my hand and whispered, "I just need you to trust me. Everything's fixed now." Before I could respond, the door to the restaurant opened, and Marissa walked in. She wasn't alone. Behind her came Claire's parents. Claire's face drained of color. Her father stopped dead when he saw her. Her mother gasped audibly. Marissa walked straight up to the table, her steps echoing against the tile floor. She looked exhausted, but her voice was steady. She dropped a printed photo on the table, a still frame from the restaurant's camera that Leo had paid the manager to copy. Claire and Vincent kissing, right under the olive green hanging lamp. No one said a word for several seconds. The whole restaurant had gone quiet, forks hanging midair. Then Marissa turned to Claire. You told him you were being blackmailed. You told him Vincent had leverage on you. She leaned closer. Do you even know what leverage looks like, Claire? Because I have it now. Claire whispered her name, tried to explain, but Marissa cut her off. You've been seeing my husband for months. He told me everything. Said it was nothing serious, just business. He even said you were marrying someone rich. Guess that's you. She turned to me. You're the fiancé, right? I'm sorry you had to find out this way. I really am. Claire's father looked like he was about to explode. Her mother covered her mouth in shock. Claire started crying, grabbing at my sleeve, saying she didn't know Marissa would come. I stood up slowly, took my wallet out, and placed a $100 bill on the table. I looked at Claire, then at her father. Dinner's on me, I said. Consider it the last wedding expense. But before I could walk away, another voice came from behind me. Vincent. He had walked in through the side door, unaware of the chaos waiting for him. He stopped when he saw us all standing there. His eyes darted from Marissa to Claire to me. For a moment, no one moved. Then Marissa turned and threw her wedding ring at him. It hit his chest and rolled under the booth. She said, You're done. Claire shouted at him, accusing him of ruining everything. He laughed, actually laughed, and said she'd done that herself. Then he said something that made every head turn. He told her, You were supposed to marry him, not fall apart this fast. We had a deal. A deal. That word cut through the air like glass shattering. Claire froze. Her father demanded to know what that meant. Vincent, drunk on arrogance, explained that Claire's mother had approached him months ago to smooth things with investors from his firm, that they'd all profit if the wedding went through because of a joint partnership involving my company's marketing contract. Claire had been the bridge. She was supposed to marry me, secure the connection, and then quietly repay her debts through company favors. It wasn't about love. It wasn't even about Vincent. It was business. Claire broke down, screaming that it wasn't true. But her father looked ready to believe it. Maybe because he already knew part of it. Maybe he'd been involved, too. I didn't say a word. I just watched everything burn down. The manager came over, trying to calm things, but it was useless. Vincent stormed out, Marissa followed, and Claire's parents started arguing loudly by the bar. The whole restaurant stared as if it were a live show. When it was over, Claire sank into the booth, sobbing. I walked over, leaned down, and whispered, This is what you built. Not me. Then I left. Outside, the night was heavy and humid. Leo was parked across the street, engine running. I got in and didn't speak for a while. Finally, he said, So it's done? I shook my head. Not yet. Because as messy as that confrontation had been, one question kept burning in my mind. What exactly had Claire and Vincent been trying to fix before the wedding? Later that night, I found out. Around midnight, I received a call from a blocked number. It was Claire. Her voice was hoarse. She said she'd left her parents' house and needed to talk one last time. I told her I didn't think there was anything left to say. She said, You don't understand. He's gone. He took everything. I stayed silent. She said Vincent had cleaned out her accounts, including the one she'd been hiding from me, the one she used for the transfers. He'd withdrawn every cent, blocked her, and vanished. Even worse, she claimed he'd stolen her phone and threatened to leak their messages if she reported him. I didn't feel sympathy. I just listened. She begged to meet in person, said she didn't want to end like this. I told her the wedding was off. She asked if I'd still cover the cancellation fees since everything had been in my name. That was the moment I hung up. I turned to Leo, who was sitting beside me, wide-eyed. I told him the only thing that made sense. We end this tomorrow. Publicly. The next morning, I went through every contract tied to the wedding. Venue, catering, entertainment. I canceled everything officially, marking bride misconduct and financial breach in the reason column. Every vendor saw that note. Word spread fast. By noon, her parents knew. By evening, half the town did. That night, I posted a single sentence on my private social page. No ceremony this weekend. She found someone else at Olive Garden. It wasn't rage. It was clarity. The comments poured in within hours. Sympathy, shock, disbelief. Some thought it was fake. Others connected the dots fast. Among them, one anonymous account posted a message that stood out. You don't know half of it, Owen. Call me. The profile had no name, no photo. But the attached number traced back to the same area code as Vincent's workplace. Leo thought it was a trap. I thought it was a lead. Either way, I called. And that's when I learned the truth that would turn everything upside down. The voice on the other end of the line was low and nervous. It didn't sound like Vincent. "This is about your fiancé," the caller said. "You don't know who I am, but I work in the same department as him. You should see what he's been doing with your wedding contracts." I pressed for details. The man explained that Vincent had access to vendor accounts through Claire's company. Weeks before the wedding, he'd been using her login credentials to move promotional funds into shell accounts, using the same invoices tied to our event. That loan, Claire claimed she'd taken, wasn't from him. It was from me. The payments I made to her company's event partners were being siphoned through their internal systems straight into Vincent's accounts. The wedding was never just personal betrayal. It was corporate fraud. When I hung up, Leo was staring at me. I told him everything. We spent the next few hours piecing together every suspicious transaction. The totals matched almost perfectly, $20,000, the same amount Claire claimed she owed Vincent. But what hit hardest was realizing she hadn't been entirely lying. She really had been blackmailed, only not for the reasons she said. Vincent had convinced her to become part of his scheme. She was terrified of getting caught before the wedding, so she played the victim, hoping I'd protect her. By morning, I was done protecting anyone. I contacted a lawyer I knew through my firm. We compiled evidence, bank statements, the restaurant footage, and the call recording. Then we sent everything, anonymously, to her company's ethics board. That same day, the Olive Garden manager called me back, the one Leo had bribed for footage earlier. He said someone had returned asking for the video, a man matching Vincent's description. The manager told him it had already been handed over to the groom. Vincent had apparently panicked, demanded to buy the copy, and left in a rage when told it was gone. It was clear what came next. By afternoon, news spread that both Claire and Vincent were being investigated internally. Someone had leaked the anonymous complaint email to the board, and a temporary leave was issued for both pending review. I didn't even need to lift another finger. But Claire wasn't done. That evening, she showed up at my apartment. She looked wrecked, hair disheveled, dark circles under her eyes, her voice cracking between anger and desperation. She begged me to listen, said she didn't know Vincent would go this far. She swore she was only trying to protect me from a lawsuit her mother's company could have faced if the truth came out. I didn't argue. I didn't yell. I opened my phone, pulled up my banking app, and showed her a single message on screen. Joint account closed. Then I handed her a plain envelope. Inside were receipts of every dollar she'd touched, every refund I'd already claimed, every canceled check. At the top of the folder was a printout of her own text to Vincent, the one I found in her deleted files. "Once the wedding clears, we'll be fine. He's loaded, and he never checks the fine print." She went silent. Then she whispered something I didn't expect. "He told me you'd forgive me. He said you were too proud to ruin your own name before the wedding." I told her the wedding was ruined by her. She stood there, shaking, trying to piece together an apology that wouldn't sound pathetic. When it didn't come, she said something colder. "You think you're the only one who can play this game? You'll regret humiliating me." I didn't respond. I simply walked to the door and opened it. She stood still for a moment, then left without looking back. The next day, I woke up to a storm online. Someone, probably her, had posted on a local social group that I'd set up my fiancée at our own rehearsal dinner, painting herself as a manipulated woman in a toxic relationship. But her post backfired. Within hours, people from the restaurant commented, sharing what they'd seen. The truth traveled faster than her lies ever could. That same afternoon, her company made the suspension public. Vincent's resignation followed within the hour. His wife, Marissa, posted a short message online. "He's finally out of my life." And then came the moment of final silence. The day that was supposed to be our wedding dawned cold and gray. I woke early, brewed coffee, and looked at the suit hanging in the corner. Instead of a ceremony, I had an inbox full of notifications, vendors, guests, family, friends. Everyone knew. At exactly noon, I hit send on an email drafted the night before. Subject, regarding Saturday. Body, no ceremony today. No reception. The bride made other arrangements. Refunds will be processed automatically. No details. No drama. Just the truth. Hours later, the phone started lighting up. First Claire, then her mother, then unknown numbers, reporters maybe. I didn't pick up. Leo showed up that evening with a six-pack and a stupid grin. "You know you went viral, right?" he said. My post, the one about Olive Garden, had been shared across local groups. Even people I didn't know were commenting. That guy handled it like a legend. I laughed for the first time in days. Not because it was funny, but because it was finally over. Still, the peace didn't last long. 2 days later, I got a letter in the mail from Claire's attorney, an empty threat demanding I remove defamatory content. My lawyer handled it easily. Her family had already disowned her after the investigation confirmed Vincent's fraud. The company pressed charges, and both were banned from re-employment within their industry. Claire tried to move away quietly. Her name appeared once more in the local paper when she filed for bankruptcy. I didn't clip the article. Months passed. Life slowly rebuilt itself. One evening, I drove out toward the coast, the same place we'd once planned a honeymoon. The air smelled of salt and cold water. I took the ring box from my jacket pocket, the one I'd thrown on the Olive Garden table that night. Inside, the diamond looked smaller than I remembered. I opened it, turned it over in my hand once, and threw it into the waves. The water swallowed it whole. No splash, no sound. On the way home, my phone buzzed. It was a message from Leo. Our photography gig just landed another client. A wedding. Want to shoot it with me? I laughed to myself. The irony wasn't lost on me. By the time I got home, the apartment felt lighter. Quiet again, but not heavy anymore. I checked my phone one last time before bed. One unread voicemail blinked in the corner of the screen. The number was familiar. Claire's voice. Please, don't destroy me more than you already have. I didn't mean for any of this. I just wanted things to be perfect. Her tone was weak, broken, not the same person who once threw her head back laughing at another man's joke. I listened until the end, then pressed delete. The silence after that was clean, final. Weeks later, I learned that the Olive Garden where everything happened had shut down temporarily. Too much unwanted attention, apparently. Every time I passed the empty building on my commute, I couldn't help but smile at the absurd symmetry of it all. Everything that had started there had ended there too. Her schemes, his arrogance, my silence. And in a strange way, that was justice enough.